Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SI Talk und bei mir habe ich heute eine neue Story. Ich habe darüber noch nicht darüber berichtet, aber ich habe bereits einen Conflict of Interest. Ich habe beim letzten Private Placement mitgemacht. Terra Balcanica, das ist Alex Mišković. Der Name klingt schon, wie man am Balkan wäre, deswegen auch der Name, glaube ich, und deswegen ist auch man sieht es auch, die Projekte sind alle im Bosnien, Serbien und er kommt auch von der Region. Und das macht es auch ein bisschen, ja, wie soll ich sagen, ja, man vertraut auch mehr dadurch, dass er von dort auch kommt, dass er auch dann dementsprechend auch das Richtige macht und dort die Connection auch hat zu den Leuten, obwohl er natürlich schon seit mehr als wahrscheinlich 20 Jahren in Kanada lebt. Alex, thank you for your time. And I said your name sounds very from the Balkan, and the company name is looking also that you are working in this area. When we go in now deeper a little bit in, you have all the projects in Bosnia and Serbia, and this is good. I must say, you live now for more than I think 20 years in Canada. But you have a really good connections to this area. Then you are from there. Your parents coming from there. You grow up there, so you have a good relationship to the people there. And so that end. Sorry, I forgot. I have a conflict of interest. I'm a big shareholder. I'm coming in with the last private placement, so my stocks are still restricted, but it's not a problem. I'm not a short-term investor. I'm looking for the long run, and hopefully we can find something. So, and this is a good point. Maybe you can tell us a little bit where the project located. What is the number one project for you, and what makes you really confident that this is the project that brings the company to the next stage?
Joachim, thank you so much for the invitation. First, I want to thank you for inviting me to this interview, and also I want to send my greetings to all of your viewers and subscribers. My name is Alex Mišković. As you mentioned, I'm a Canadian citizen, but originally from the former Yugoslavia, Bosnia and Serbia specifically. I have connections to both of those countries. And yes, Terra Balcanica is a Canadian junior explorer operating in both of those countries. So we are multi-jurisdictional. We have a portfolio that about 130 kilometers squared in Serbia of land, and then about 216 square kilometers in Bosnia. Mm-hmm. We are a polymetallic explorer. We explore and seek to discover deposits and advanced projects that focus on gold, silver, copper, lead, zinc. But also we are, eyeing opportunities to enter into the battery metal space, which is obviously very much in vogue these days, especially for Europe, which is, I must admit, starved for these resources. So, there's lithium in the Balkans, nickel in the Balkans as well, and Terra Balcanica certainly is looking for all those opportunities that are going to bring value to the shareholders.
Mm-hmm. So, what is the flagship project?
The flagship project is called Viogorzanik. It extends over 3 licenses in eastern Bosnia. It is focused on a oligomycene, 30 to 22 million year old volcano-magmatic complex, volcano-plutonic complex in eastern Bosnia that already features an operating mine. So we have a mine there that mines lead, zinc, silver, antimony, and gold from these high-grade veins. It's called Sase mine. It produces between 330 and 350,000 tons of lead, zinc, silver, antimony, gold concentrate per year. It has about 6 or so years of mine life left, and Terra Balcanica has surrounded the mine site entirely with our licenses. Over the course of first year and a half of our existence between 2020 and 2021, we focused on target generation, developed 3 different targets in the area. One is high-grade silver target. The other one is a mostly gold porphyry target. And the third one is a purely porphyry copper target. We have been drilling these targets in the last 2 years. So last year, 2022, has seen the phase 1 drilling. This year, we are about to complete the phase 2 drilling. 2,200 meters or so of drilling to further advance both the high-grade silver and the porphyry copper/gold target within the auspices of Gorzanic. Serbian part of portfolio is divided into 2 licenses. One is called Ceovište, that's a high-grade gold on-surface target, basically ready to drill. It has occurrences of both copper and gold. We had recently, last February, put out a press release that speaks of a 900-meter wide anomaly in soil, geochemical in soil anomaly, that is indicative of a large porphyry system that is located right next to the high-grade gold. And then the second target is called Kaludra, which is more of a Balkan, typical Balkan intermediate sulfidation, high-grade lead, zinc, silver. So as you can see, Terra Balcanica has truly a kind of a polymetallic approach in different jurisdictions. I think in doing so, we are offsetting possible risks that might exist, although both mining jurisdictions are very mining friendly. I must say that proudly. We have also worked very hard to advance our community relations and our stakeholder engagement regionally. But also we are exposed to kind of 2 different asset classes. On one hand, you have copper and zinc and possibly lithium as critical metals necessary for the green transition and 2050 net zero agenda. But at the same time, we also have access and are advancing projects that have more to do with classical precious metal baskets such as gold and silver, which, again, can, especially in today's turbulent times and macroeconomic uncertainty, serve as good hedges against uncertainty. So I like our exposure to both different jurisdictions and different metals.
Okay. Before we go a little bit deeper to the projects, in Europe, and it is always to get a mine, all the license, the permitting process. It's very complicated. So how the process in this area? We have some new mines there? So if we can relate it, okay, this company need 10 years to bring a new mine to production. Yep. This company needs only 5 years or something. So that we can see, okay, they have a mining law in process. They have experience to get new licensing done. They have experience also from the people, so that you have the workforce. They can do something. So which companies are in the area? Which companies are working on new project, or which companies bringing new mines into the production the last few years?
Right. So very, very briefly, the Southeastern Europe, the Western Balkan Peninsula, is no stranger to mining. Obviously, the area has been mined by the Romans. Back 2,000 years ago, we had Saxons, mine the area in the medieval times for Bosnian and Serbian kings. And then obviously during the communist era, there were many mines that were put in production. Since the end of the wars in the 1990s, especially Serbia has seen quite a resurgence in terms of the work and dollars spent on exploration activities. I guess the most prominent end product of those efforts is the Čukaru Peki project in eastern Serbia, so-called Timok project, initially initiated by EMX Royalties back 25 years ago, then advanced by Reservoir Minerals or Metals, acquired by Nevsun, and then finally sold to Zijin. This happened in 2019 for $1.86 billion Canadian. So this is a massive gold porphyry system in eastern Serbia, very close to the already existing mines of Bor and Majdanpek. In Bosnia, we have quite a recent story of success in the name of Adriatic Metals, which I'm sure is a familiar name to many of your subscribers and audience.
Yeah, I'm a shareholder, so I have a conflict.
There you go.
Sorry.
Good for you. I like to joke and say that if we are able to replicate even half of the success of Adriatic Metals, we'll be in a good shape. Adriatic Metals did something very amazing. I mean, they obviously focused on an area that was already known for antimony and gold mining before. They, looked around, staked land, and advanced the project extremely quickly. Not only for the local, by local yardstick, but also by the standards of on the global scale. You would be very hard pressed to find a jurisdiction, even an advanced mining jurisdiction in North America, such as Arizona or Nevada, British Columbia, Quebec, or Ontario, Yukon, where you can, from the moment when you start drilling until the moment when you raise money to build a mine, do all of that within 4.5 to 5 years. And that's exactly what Adriatic was able to do, which is a tremendous success. They are, I think they were scheduled to start the operations and open the mine in September. I think they're slightly behind the schedule, but nonetheless, and it's going to happen imminently. And truly, that speaks to both the acumen of the management and the good job they've done. Obviously, a very good geology that they have on their hands, but also says something about Bosnia and Herzegovina, the country that is basically not really known to many investors, especially those outside of Europe. It speaks to the fact that you can advance the project in Bosnia within less than 6 or 7 years, from the moment when you start exploring until the moment when you build the mine. Mm-hmm. That's, as I said, unprecedented rate of advancement. Usually these cycles last about 20 years or so. So yes, Terra Balcanica is working within the same jurisdiction, actually in both of those. Very mining friendly, good and skilled workforce, relatively cheap labor, clear permitting processes. So you can hold a exploration license for 7 years in both countries, according to the 3+2+2 formula. In other words, every year after the initial 3, you basically have to request for renewal of the license. But as long as you commit to executing the work that you initially proposed and you do that work, then it's more or less a standard procedure of retaining that license. After 7 years, you are asked by the government of both countries to declare some sort of a resource. But that doesn't mean that the ball stops there. You can still carry on advancing that resource, expanding it, if you see that there is a need to push it beyond the certain limits, or if there's more to be found. Mm-hmm. The corporate rates in both countries, 10% in Bosnia, 15% in Serbia. The royalty, 5%, which is not too high, not too low. It's okay. I mean, I've seen countries with both higher and lower, obviously. But again, it didn't prevent some of the majors like Rio Tinto, Eldorado Gold, Zijin, Neptune to operate in these jurisdictions. So overall, I would say that if you look at the Europe as a whole, it certainly ranks, these two countries rank at the top of those ones that are mining friendly. Unfortunately, I think for our home continent, because I'm also European, mining has become a bit of a bad word with bad reputation lately, which I think is complete nonsense considering the need that we have for these critical metals in our own backyard, and so that we don't rely on imports from other continents. And therefore, countries like Serbia, Bosnia, Portugal, Sweden, Spain, and a few others, Greece, are kind of our last hope, unless obviously there's more done on the front of opening up the rest of the Europe. Our only hope to be able to secure these critical metals and minerals that are needed for advancement of our progress. And I think that Serbia and Bosnia, both countries, are positioning themselves very strongly in that aspect. There's only 600 or 700 kilometers away from Bavaria or Austria or Switzerland, BMW factories or Mercedes-Benz factories. So if deposits such as big nickel deposits or lithium are found, it would be absolutely superbly strategically positioned to have these deposits right there. And I think it's in Europe's interest to allow for these things to happen, to make regulatory frameworks such that they not only allow, but also foster further exploration, obviously in the most environmentally conscious way, as is done. I'm very proud to say that, in the last 10 years, I don't remember a single example of an incident of any kind in Bosnia, Serbia, that had to do with mining. All work done is very, very responsible. Best industry practices are used. And obviously, except for the Cukarupecky and Adriatic, we didn't have mines built. But nonetheless, this swarm of activity did not result in anything that you can point your finger and say, "Look at this. This is bad." No,
I
so it's
think
primarily.
I think in Europe the mood against mining going better. So the people understand that it's and we should not forget mining was also have a big history in Europe too. We have this mining university in Austria. We have in Germany the mining university. A lot of people working in the mining industry and coming from these countries. So and we build tunnels also. So and with tunnels you must also cross the mountain and so on. So I think my only personal feeling is that the mood against mining goes a little bit better than the people understand. It's now better. We do it under our environment friendly rules than bring the lithium from Argentina and with really dirty they have really dirty
because it can be done. It can be done. The two do not exclude each other. Environmentally friendly approach and mining go hand in hand, in my opinion. Can do, and there's plenty of examples that show that. I think also we as miners, we as geologists, I'm ultimately a geochemist myself, I'm a geologist, we should do a better job of educating the population at large to actually bring them to the sites, show them how things are done, so that especially the younger generations, more environmentally more conscious generations, are aware that these things that you use and take for granted, such as the phone, come, they don't just magically appear, but they actually, somebody mines cobalt and nickel and tungsten and gold and silver and zinc and everything that goes in it.
Well, one question to the permitting process. You say 3 to 3 and 2. So after this 8 year, you must coming up with a resource calculation. Without the resource calculation, you lose it, or you can apply for extension?
Right. So, I mean, basically, you kind of keep on extending the entire license until the end of the 7 years, and then you're required by law to declare a resource, obviously in the inferred category, or depending how much work you've done, maybe even in indicated. And then at that point, you basically have all the legal requirements satisfied to convert the exploration license to a mining license. What they call the exploitation license, which you can do. And even if your resource at that point is relatively meager or only a part of what you think you really truly have on your hands, that doesn't mean that then you cannot carry on with the extension of the resource. So in other words, you have retained your right.
You have a higher license then? But you're working on the extension of the project. Yeah, that's what
exactly. In other words, you just that's right. You seal the deal. You seal the deal. You basically then have right to exploit that. But obviously, we all know that you need to have a critical level of ore to become relevant. Not every accumulation will result in a mine. So to be able to satisfy both, you go and you declare a resource. You satisfy the Serbian/Bosnian requirements, but then you keep on basically defining additional resources through additional drilling to bring this to a level that's actually meaningful, and then obviously something that warrants opening a mine.
But this is a normal work when you run a mine, you always look for exploration to find more ore to expand your mine life. So I think that is your standard process by all mines, that you're looking always for new ore in your mining area. So
that's right.
But you say also in the beginning that you're coming up with really high numbers of drill results. So first, what mean high numbers of drill results? Right. Everybody has a different look on what is high numbers.
Yeah. So again, this is only early days for Terra Balcanica, but if we just look back at the last year's results, I can say that, and obviously audience can go to our website, www.terrabresources.com, and they can look at under the section of news release and do their due diligence. But you, on average, in the Čumavići, this is that high-grade silver corridor that we have been exploring last year, maiden drilling conducted, etc. I can say that we have defined about 160, 170 meters of a long strike and about 200 meters down dip of a planar, high-grade polymetallic fault-hosted intermediate sulfidation vein that contains high grade of silver, lead, zinc, gold, and antimony. If you do the conversion and convert everything to silver equivalents, I can say that on average, we have about 500 to 550 grams per ton silver equivalent over a thickness of about 5 to 7 meters within this body. And again, as I said, 160 meters along strike and about 200-meter down dip continuity of the ore body defined so far. Obviously, this is all done on about 7, 8, 9 holes, so it's still early days. But that's more or less on average. When you look at actually and compare to the rest of the world's best explorers in the silver space, at least in terms of the grade and the thickness, that's very much comparable. So if you compare ourselves to, even Adriatic, although their body is not tabular, their body is more of a bulk kind of a shape, large tonnage. But if you look at the Wisla Silver, if you look at the, Western Alaska Mining, et cetera, we have grades that are basically within the ballpark of some of the world's best in terms of silver. And then the widths are also more or less comparable to those ones that you see in Mexico. Now, obviously the goal for Terra, and that's exactly what we've done this year, and that's what we're going to continue doing next year, is to expand the tonnage by continuing to define a long strike and continuing to find a down dip extent of this body. Things in nature are never perfect. Sometimes you have a body that just pinches out and then comes back again. So we have to define that. So the geometry, defining the continuity of the grade, defining the continuity of the extent in both X and Y direction, and making sure that those widths remain around that we have originally defined them, so between 5 and 10 meters. That's exactly what we are doing right now. In doing so, we're going to extend the tonnage and hopefully bring that to that critical level that you need to open a mine. Now, the corridor is exactly that. It's 7.2 kilometers long, which means that we have defined 5 different separate targets along that corridor that need to be drilled. 2 of those have been drilled, the so-called Trumovici Ridge and the Yosheva, which is 2.3 kilometers apart. Both are positive, both contain mineralization. And we have 3 other ones that we haven't even touched yet. But we know the mineralization is there both from the archival records of former Yugoslavia and the fact that our geologists went to the field and they saw the mineralization on surface. So when you put all those together, I think we are in a good shape to get to the point where we have that critical millions of tons that at the grade that we want, so as to kind of approach the level that Adriatic is at the moment. Just for the information's sake, Adriatic is at 8.9 million tons, running about 550 or so, or 580 grams per ton silver equivalent. You can convert those things to zinc as well and have a different number, but that's more or less what they have on their hands. We would be very happy to reach that number, or even half of that would be great. I think that would really put us in good position. One thing we do have that Adriatic doesn't is obviously we have multiple different targets that have nothing to do with silver. So 14 kilometers to the southeast, we have a massive porphyry gold target that also saw some drilling this year. We put 5 holes, and the news releases coming out in October are going to be all about that as well. So we have that there are superficial gold layer. So far, we have defined 100-meter thickness, underneath which we have this massive porphyry anomaly that we have drilled this year, and we are awaiting the assays.
Very interesting. The name of this is
this target is called Brezheny. So if you go on our website and you'll see on the page 17, this is a Brezheny target. It is a massive geochemical / geophysical target that we have done some trenching on the surface, and then we've drilled it last year, and we've drilled it again this year. The size is so big that we can easily step 200 meters in one direction and 200 meters in the other direction and just do so without fear of losing the mineralization. So that's going to be very interesting. I'm very keen to actually highlight those results. And then again, obviously, as I mentioned, Serbia, 2 licenses in Serbia, particularly Ceovište is interesting from our standpoint because it's drill ready. We have done all the necessary superficial work. We have good indication that we have, up to 67 grams per ton gold on surface and some very shallow subsurface workings from historical accounts that also show very high grade. To us, that is clear indication that we can start drilling this very soon, and hopefully, especially if the gold starts going up a little bit, we will be able to profit, from the high grade gold in Serbia as well. This area has become lately also very interesting zone for some, of the global majors, looking back with the renewed eyes, renewed interest in the Balkans. And Terra Balcanica is willing and will be working closely with some of those big companies to potentially strike some sort of a partnership in the near future, which will be both a welcome source of funding for the company, but also a seal of approval, a sign of approval of all the hard work we've done so far.
So to summarize a little bit, so what are your plans now on drilling, or do you have done drilling so far this year? So how many meters you do in the Bosnian projects, in these two? One is the silver, one is the gold.
That's right. So we're about to complete, within next 15 days, we will be completing our 2,200 meters of drilling or so. Subsequent to that, we will pause. We will then look at the results and start issuing press releases over the course of next 6 months. That's as far as the drilling. So that's a phase 2, 2023 drilling. We are also actively looking in adding additional properties to our portfolio, especially those in the critical battery space. We are working very hard with the local authorities to maybe acquire some more licenses in Bosnia, especially. And then, as I said, in Serbia, we are looking to start doing some work on the ground in Seovište, especially. Kaludra is also ready for drilling. So both properties are drill ready. Both are drill ready. We just need to basically secure the funding to advance those things, and possible partnerships in the future on the Serbian properties might provide exactly the leverage for us to do that.
So you have also in mind that you make some joint ventures that you spend money from other companies to your project to bring the dilution a little bit down.
Precisely.
So that's
we are very aware of the fact that obviously these times are tough. The macroeconomic situation doesn't help, and raising money at such low valuations obviously is a concern, and we try to limit that as much as possible while simultaneously advancing the project. I mean, we can always go into the hunker mode and just keep the money in the treasury and not push the story forward. But I'm not of that approach. I like to advance the projects. We don't have all the time in the world. We have a limited time. So the idea was to raise money, even though the times are, especially this summer was very quiet on the capital markets front, which we have. On Friday, we're going to announce a new tranche being closed. And to use those proceeds right away and put them in the ground. And that's exactly what we've done, so that we can actually have releases and have good numbers to show to the people and reward them for their investment. So I think, with a good capital markets plan in place, with proper marketing that we intend to do, a lot of road trips, especially. Obviously, we are a European story, but we are a Canadian company, so we have to work on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. And having all those things together, I think the next 6 months we'll see Terra Balcanica with a fairly dense stream of news releases, so that the story remains relevant. We are never gone. We are always present, with some good numbers coming out, so that's something that work with, and a proper capital markets and marketing plan. We think we can advance the share price and reward all those who believed in the story from the early on, and those ones who came in later on, that this is truly one of the rare European precious metal and critical metal stories with the legs to stand on and future to advance. And we do want to position ourselves exactly as that. When you actually count other ones in the Balkans or the rest of the Europe, there aren't that many, unfortunately. And we want to show that being small, nimble, agile, quick to process the data, quick to deploy the team, advance the projects that make sense, add value to the share price, is basically Terra Balcanica modus operandi, and we hope to continue down that path.
I have the slide with the capital structure, and
Yes.
it is from August, the presentation. At this time, you have 93.4 million shares outstanding. So you said that you do a private placement round, so maybe the numbers are going higher for sure. But what's very interesting is that directors and management hold around 45%.
Right.
That is a very strong number and very unusual.
Yeah, actually, Joachim, that number will go only up slightly because that 93 reflects the last tranche.
Yeah.
This upcoming tranche will only up that number by a little bit, so maybe another million shares or so. So again, we're not getting too diluted that way. Obviously, we do have some warrants and options, but I mean, many of them probably will expire within next year or so, and therefore the warrant so-called overhang isn't going to be too high. Yes, the management. I mean, this story has been private for a year and a half. We put the company together with a fairly strong board and management team. The people who believed in the story, who put in their own money, and we're willing to defend the price as much as possible to remain relevant in the very unfortunate and tough times. So yes, we do contain 45% of that ownership. I mean, I know other companies that have high numbers as well. We are very proud of that. Many of the, obviously, all the warrants that are in the hands of the management is something that's going to stay with the management for long term. None of those people intends to do anything with them. So we are here for the long haul. We see the future to this company, and obviously with good numbers to come, on the wings of the good numbers to come, make, let's say, next year, 2024, the pivotal year for the company, where we can actually really, let's say, at a slightly higher valuation and more money coming in, really conduct proper drilling and open up this wealth of metals that we believe exists in Bosnia and Serbia, advance the projects, acquire more land, position ourselves as the critical metal explorer in the Balkans, and again, ultimately bring value back to the shareholders in the one of what some people would describe the toughest quarter or the toughest 25 years that they've seen in the industry lately.
I must say that I agree with them that the situation of the whole mining or the exploration companies are really, really, really tough. Alex, thank you for the introduction. It was very interesting to see, especially in Europe. So I make now a little bit, or I hope to remember everything what we talk and make a short German summary. Also, was geht, ist ganz klar, man merkt es auch von seinem Background, es geht natürlich um Projekte in Bosnien und Serbien. Die eine Frage von mir war, kann man dort Mining machen? Wie schnell kann man dort Mining machen? Ist es schwierig, dort eine Mine hochzuziehen, oder ist es doch ein entwickeltes Land, die mit Mining aufgewachsen sind? Das ist ja in Europa nicht so einfach. Und er hat ein paar gute Beispiele eben gezeigt. Der Xi hat jetzt den Nefsund übernommen, 1,9 Milliarden. Das ist schon ein Riesenbrocken. Man sieht es auch hier auf dieser Grafik, da sind einige bekannte Namen natürlich oben. Adriatica ist einer der jüngsten Erfolgsstories, da bin ich auch Aktionär über auch lange Zeit, war auch eine kanadische Story, ist dann übernommen worden von Australier quasi, notiert jetzt eigentlich in Australien und in London und gehen jetzt in Produktion 4,5 Jahre, nachdem sie eigentlich mit der Exploration angefangen haben. Da sieht man, dass es möglich ist, innerhalb kürzester Zeitraum eine von Exploration to Production zu gehen. Und das ist eigentlich das Wichtigste. Und gerade wir in Europa brauchen eigentlich auch diese Rohstoffe. Sie sind spezialisiert vor allem auf Basismetalle. Sie haben Bosnien und Serbien haben sie eben Projekte. Sie haben ein großes Projekt das ist eigentlich ein Silberprojekt, aber es ist ein Polymetallic-Projekt. Das muss man eindeutig einmal sagen. Es ist ein 7,2 Kilometer langer Strike, wo sie 5 verschiedene Projekte haben. Sie haben dort sehr, sehr gute Bohrergebnisse gehabt. Was mir sehr gut gefallen hat, er ist nur auf die Durchschnittsgehalte gegangen. Andere würden da auf diese Spitzenwerte gehen. Hier zum Beispiel im 1,7 Meter durchgerechnet 3 Kilo auf Silberäquivalent. Er hat gesagt, zwischen 500 und 550 Gramm pro Tonne ist der Durchschnittssilberäquivalent. Man sieht es, das ist natürlich aufgeteilt auf Silber, Zink, Blei und Antimon. Ein bisschen Gold ist auch dabei da kommt man auf schon schöne Gehalte. Jetzt wird gebohrt, sie haben gebohrt auch und in den nächsten Wochen, 6 Monate, sollen dann die Bohrergebnisse rausgehen. Was mir sehr gut gefallen hat, sie haben dann natürlich noch weitere Projekte. Das Bohrführersystem klingt extrem spannend. Warum ist ein Bohrführersystem so spannend? Wenn man hittet und wenn das die Durchschnittsgehalt ist, dann reden wir hier vom Monster. Dann reden wir von Monsterprojekte, die groß sind, da reden wir von Giganten. Die kosten natürlich auch sehr viel, also das kann die Company nicht alleine machen, da braucht sie einen Major dazu, weiß nicht wie Rio Tinto, BHP oder wen anderen, aber Porphyris sind immer Giganten. Aber wenn man den hittet, ist es natürlich ein Kurstreiber natürlich per Excellence. Auch da sollen natürlich Daten kommen. Dann haben wir es hier sehr spannend in Serbien, das Projekt, weil hier alte historische Minen gibt, die bis zu 64 Gramm pro Tonne Gold gehabt haben. Das ist extrem spannend. Das zu bohren ist natürlich das könnte extrem interessant sein, weil es ja historisch dort Minenschächte gegeben haben, die das abgebaut haben. Und die alten Minen, die haben ja nur nach dem visuellen Auge geschaut. Die haben keine Geophysik oder nichts gehabt, sondern die haben einfach das genommen, was sie an der Oberfläche gefunden haben, und das muss aber irgendwo vorher kommen. Wir haben auch dann lange darüber auch geredet, über das Problem natürlich, dass der Markt sehr depressiv ist, es schwierig ist, Geld zu bekommen. Die Aktionärstruktur schaut allerdings sehr, sehr gut aus. Was mir gut gefällt, ist, dass das Management und Direktoren 45% der Firma nach wie vor haben. Das wird auch jetzt nicht wahnsinnig steigen, weil er schließt jetzt nur ein kleines Private Placement ab. Sie haben auch geraced im Sommer, da bin ich auch reingestiegen über das Private Placement, muss ich auch dazu sagen. Aber der Anteil von 45% rund bleibt beim Management und Direktoren bestehen. Das ist sehr hoch. Er sagt auch, das kommt auch, weil sie es gegründet haben als privates Unternehmen, ihr eigenes Geld reingesteckt haben, das zuerst zu einem gewissen Stadium gebracht haben, bevor sie an die Börse gegangen sind. Also an sich ein sehr interessantes Konstrukt, sehr interessantes Projekte, die auch wir aus Europa natürlich brauchen können. Wir haben sehr viele auch teilweise über die Lieferketten gesprochen. Sie planen auch weitere Land zu akquirieren, sind allerdings nicht nur darauf versessen, dass sie selber alles explorieren, sondern sie sind auch offen für Joint Ventures, Earn-in-Agreements, was auch immer daherkommt, vor allem auch diese serbischen Projekte, also das, so wie mir das gelungen hat, ist da möglicherweise auch schon was in der Mache. One question, do you talk already with some companies? Maybe they have interest in some earn-ins or something, or is this only an idea what you have it in the future?
We are having some discussions with interested parties. Yes, we are. Nothing's firm as of yet, but the interest exists certainly in both Serbia and Bosnia.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds for me like it's okay. Also Sie sind schon in Diskussionen. Es ist nicht so, dass das jetzt eine neue Idee ist und irgendwie in Zukunft ist, sondern das ist auch schon, da gibt es schon die ersten Gespräche. Ist auch verständlich, Exploration ist sehr teuer. Da will man die Risiken auch teilen und man will sich auch auf manche Projekte konzentrieren. Und wenn man das Geld von anderen ausgeben kann, ist das nie schlecht. Also von daher sehe ich das ganz entspannt. Wichtig ist, dass man nur was relativ schnell produziert, was zum Ende bringt und nicht irgendwie so jahrzehntelang dahin arbeitet, weil das ist genau das, was wir nicht brauchen. Ja, spannend. wie gesagt, ich bin Aktionär von dem Unternehmen, deswegen bin ich gespannt, was die nächsten Ergebnisse sind. Und ja, ich freue mich auch dann schon entsprechend. Ja, weil ich jetzt gerade sehe, interessant ist auch diese Mining License, wie die zu Minenlizenzen werden. Also es ist 3 plus 2, das heißt, am Ende dieses Prozesses muss man eigentlich mit einer Ressourcenschätzung kommen und dann, wenn man die Ressourcenschätzung hat, entwickelt man das eigentlich in eine Exploitation License, also das heißt eigentlich in eine Minenlizenz. Dann kann man natürlich noch immer explorieren, das ist klar, macht man auch. Jedes Unternehmen exploriert, auch bei ihren bestehenden Minen, das ist nicht fertig. Aber das ist relativ straightforward und vor allem auch relativ schnell, weil ich sage, wie gesagt, wir kennen viele Firmen, die Jahrzehnte an irgendeinem Projekt rundum explorieren, und da muss es halt einfach nach 7, 8 Jahren zu einer Lizenz kommen oder zu einer Ressourcenschätzung kommen und nicht irgendwie erst in 35 Jahren. Ja, also von daher eigentlich ein relativ straightforward Prozess und eigentlich klingt sehr spannend. Ja, das war's. Heute ist der 20. September 2023. Ich wünsche Ihnen viel Erfolg natürlich mit den ganzen Ergebnissen. Bin ja auch Aktionär, deswegen wünsche ich mir das natürlich auch. Und Alex, thank you for your time. It was very interesting. Good luck with the drill results. Good luck also in Serbia that you maybe find new project, new ideas, new license, and also good luck with maybe the talks about new joint ventures. For sure, when you're coming up with really good numbers, it's easier to find partners. They spend a huge amount of money so that you can do really a good program so that you can show the people that you have really something in this.
Precisely, and that's what the next 6 months are going to be really exciting, I think, for everybody who has invested in Terra Balcanica. For us, the management, not only putting the press releases out, but actually then finally gaining that attention and putting those eyeballs on the story that obviously every company at our stage needs. I think with the numbers that we're going to put out, we are going to create some commotion and some buzz, and a positive one, obviously. And I look forward to the developments over the course of winter months. I will be in Europe probably more than one time. Try to visit Germany, Austria, and Switzerland as well, all 3 countries. On road shows and investor trips. So obviously I'll keep our audience updated when it comes to that. But other than that, I want to thank you one more time. Dankeschön und auf Wiedersehen.
Danke und viel Erfolg. Tschüss. Ciao.